Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Iran is now making new threats against the United States and Israel. The Ayatollah said removing Israel is, quote, a religious and moral duty.
Meanwhile, President Trump announced that his first foreign trip will be to the Middle East. CBN's Julie Stahl has the story.
Iran is ramping up the rhetoric and threatening U.S. forces in the region.
The Americans have at least 10 bases and 50,000 forces near Iran. This means they are sitting in a glass room. Someone sitting in a glass room would not throw rocks at others.
Iran's supreme leader promised retaliation after Trump threatened to attack Iran if they don't agree to a nuclear deal.
But if they do, they will definitely receive a firm reciprocal blow.
He also called for the destruction of Israel.
It's a religious, moral, and human duty for everyone to work toward removing this wicked criminal entity from the region.
Despite all the tough talk, Trump's still holding out hope Iran is going to come around.
I can't imagine them doing anything else but making a deal. I would prefer a deal to the other alternative, which I think everybody in this plane knows what that is. And that's not going to be pretty, and I do not prefer that.
Ben Cohen of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy says Iran has so much uranium ready to go into nuclear bombs, Israel and the U.S. can't just sit by.
You've got a situation now where Iran has about 275 kilograms of weapons-grade enriched uranium. That is very risky. And so, yes, of course, every day that goes by without some kind of diplomatic resolution whereby Iran effectively surrenders its nuclear facilities and its nuclear program, every day that that doesn't happen, we get closer to a military strike.
Monday, Trump announced details of an upcoming trip to the Middle East.
It could be next month, maybe a little bit later, yeah. And we're going to Qatar. And also we're going to possibly a couple of other countries. UAE is very important. And Saudi Arabia, the three of them. And then we'll go other places also. But in the Middle East, those seem to be the three.
Meanwhile, Israel and Hamas are trying to work out a new ceasefire deal. Israel is demanding 11 more hostages, but Hamas is offering only 5. The Israeli military is continuing to expand its operations against Hamas as negotiations continue. The IDF warns civilians in Rafah to flee before it hits targets there. Some civilians have just plain had it with the war.
We are dying. There is no food, no drink, no electricity, no medicine. People are being displaced. Where do we go?
On Monday, the IDF said it had destroyed a more than half-mile Hamas tunnel route and located a workshop for producing rockets and launchers. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. So, Chris, what are the challenges of an attack, a U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facilities? Is that an easy job? Or describe what would happen.
No, I think it's a pretty formidable job, Gordon. First of all, the facilities are buried deep underground. That's why the B-2 bombers are so important that have been sent to Diego Garcia. Those are 30-pound bombs. They're called a massive ordnance penetrator, 20 feet long, 3 feet wide, and they can go through about 200 feet of rock. And now the reason also it's hard is that these facilities are spread throughout the country. The reason Iran did that is that they know what happened in 1981 and 2007. 1981 is when Israel destroyed the Iraqi nuclear reactor at Osirak. Then 2007, Israel destroyed the Syrian nuclear reactors. So they have their facilities spread out. So it's a complicated operation, and it could be why President Trump gave 2 months for Iran to respond to his offer so that Israel and the U.S. could coordinate attack plans. The good news for Israel, they destroyed much of Iran's air defense facilities. They did the same thing in Syria, and so we'll see what happens. But it seems, Gordon, we're just getting closer and closer to the race about a confrontation that we've been anticipating for quite a long time.
Just as a note of caution, are we too confident that these bombers can actually stop the production of uranium?
Well, some of these facilities are not only hundreds, but maybe thousands of feet underground. So maybe they can't get there. Maybe they would have to actually just destroy the entrances and the power stations that are close to these facilities. It's not an easy job. It is complicated. I don't think we're overconfident, but I think the U.S. and Israel realize the challenges that it faces by doing this and trying to at least degrade Iran's nuclear facilities. But they seem to be doing all they can, at least in preparation, with all this air armada there built on Diego Garcia, about 3,000 miles away from Iran.
Well, given that buildup, given the current talk from President Trump, and then what we just heard from the Ayatollah, he doesn't seem to be backing down at all. So let's just assume the worst, that a bomb strike happens. What retaliation could we expect from Iran?
Well, they're promising ballistic missiles, and they just released a video of an underground missile city with literally hundreds of missiles. On the other hand, Gordon, they've attacked Israel twice this year with ballistic missiles on April 13th, 2024, October 1st. We were here for both of those, and they were actually both spectacular failures. There were about 300 drones, ballistic missiles, and UAVs sent here. They almost were all shot down or missed the target. They also threatened to hit Diego Garcia, but that's probably too far away. What they could do, Gordon, is other ways they could retaliate is terror attacks within the U.S. We understand they have sleeper cells there, and also cyber warfare to the U.S. infrastructure. But the ballistic missile threat doesn't seem to have the teeth it did before last year, when they failed to really do much of any damage here to Israel or to the surrounding area.
Well, let's turn to Gaza. There seemed to be hope that there were protests inside Gaza that all against Hamas, and perhaps the population would rise up and throw them out. But I'm hearing reports that Hamas is now cracking down on the protesters. What's the latest on the ground?
Well, we're not seeing those protests anymore, as you said, Gordon. And why? I think it can be told through the story of one person in Gaza. His name, Uday al-Rabi. He blamed Hamas for what he calls the disaster in Gaza. He actually recorded a video warning that Hamas was after him because of his criticism. He was in hiding. However, Hamas captured him. They tortured him. They dragged his body through the streets. They left his body at his family's house. At his funeral, many were crying out, Hamas, out. His father blamed Hamas for the media. And this is all on Palestinian Media Watch. They released this video. They called it a death of dissent. And that, Gordon, it's just the tragic history of Hamas's tactic in the Gaza Strip: torture, intimidation, murder, all in an attempt to stay in power and control the people. So I'm not sure we're going to see many of those demonstrations in the near future.
Well, Chris, thanks for the eyewitness accounts of what's happening on the ground in Jerusalem. And my hearts just go out to the people in Gaza. They just seem to be trapped in this situation. I remember back when Hamas first was elected, they took members of the rival party, the Fatah party, and they took them to the tops of buildings and threw them over. They wanted to completely eradicate them from having anything to do with the society. They wanted to kill them all. I still don't understand how the world community can support them. These things just make no sense. It's the face of evil, and it just keeps coming again and again and again.